Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Thursday. The date is December 28th. I gave a pretty elaborate update today in our regular Thursday briefing. Today is day 83. If you have not connected or watched any of my updates the last several days, I would encourage you, if you missed the event that we shared alongside of several of our partner organizations, Red Letter Christians, Global Immersion Project, with Reverend Munther Itzhak from December 23rd from Bethlehem. His sermon is entitled God in the Rubble. If you missed that, I would encourage you to take a look. Since Christmas, the ground incursion and the bombing of Gaza has been I hate to keep saying it gets, worse and worse, but the reports are that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he of course visited troops in North Gaza on Christmas Day, and he told them, do not stop. And he's been having conversations with President Biden, and he has said, we have no intention of ending the war. We have no intention of stopping the ground incursion until Hamas is completely eradicated. So, right now there's no end in sight as of yet. No current updates on the Egyptian peace deal. NPR did a report that they got their hands on the actual document. Those three components that I've been talking about. The first one was the possibility of a 2-week lull in the fighting in exchange for the release of 40 Israeli hostages by Hamas, Islamic Jihad. It would be mostly women, children, sick adults, in exchange for 120 Palestinian prisoners. In addition to substantive aid to enter Gaza, that would be phase one. The aid would include fuel and gas. Phase two would be a new ad hoc government to be formed that would oversee humanitarian aid, rehabilitation, but that also would prepare Gaza for elections. And then phase three would be a comprehensive ceasefire that would include the release of the remaining hostages that would lead into Israel's withdrawal from the Strip. Now, we have not heard anything about Israel's perspective towards this deal. It was initially reported that Hamas and Islamic Jihad rejected it. They then said, no, we did not. But that currently is still a part of the conversation. They're kind of calling it the Egyptian peace deal. We have no specific updates about that. We did talk about what happened at the UN Security Council last week. In terms of some other updates, OSHA reported that the past several days, there were 50 airstrikes between the 24th and 25th of December, and between the 23rd and 26th, there was heavy Israeli bombardment from air, land, and sea across the Gaza Strip. We also know that rockets have continued to be fired from Gaza into Israel. The big thing that I reported on in the briefing this morning was about clashes in the West Bank. Yesterday, there were clashes between Palestinians after Israeli forces raided the Nur Shams refugee camp near Tulkarm. We know that 6 Palestinians were killed, including 2 children, and that rockets were fired from an Israeli drone as well. And another Palestinian man was wounded who was not involved in the clashes. Since October 7th, 300 Palestinians, including 79 children, have been killed in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. That's just since October 7th, which brings the total death toll this year to 502 Palestinians in the West Bank. That makes 2023 the deadliest year for Palestinians in the West Bank since 2005, which was the end of the Second Intifada. We do know that 7 Israelis have been killed by Palestinians, 4 in the West Bank, 4 in West Jerusalem, since October 7th as well, which is important to acknowledge. Those were attacks by Palestinians on Israelis. And we also know that 71% of the Palestinian fatalities have occurred during search and arrest operations. Half of those operations did not involve armed clashes. The total number of injured in the West Bank since October 7th is 3,800 Palestinian, including 576 children. So those numbers come from OSHA, the Office of Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. They also monitor settler attacks. There have been 367 settler attacks since October 7th. That average was 21 settler attacks per week before October 7th. That has increased to 32 per week since after the Hamas attacks. Displacement, those numbers continue to just be exorbitant. We also know that in the West Bank, there's been significant displacement, 483 Palestinians, including 222 children displaced in the West Bank since October 7th. So those are some West Bank updates today, Thursday, the 28th. There will be increased activities in terms of calling for a ceasefire after the new year in Washington, D.C. at cities around the country. I'd encourage you to watch our social media, pay attention to your regional news in that regard, continue to call for an end to violence, continue to pray for peace, and we'll continue to give you updates along the way. Thank you, and may the Lord be with you.